Thank you. All right, so now that we've established that from Jim Perry and Scott Freehafer that it is important to run a background check, what are some of the employer's ethical and legal obligations regarding background checks? And is there any information that you should not request in a background check? And for this one, I'm going to ask the lawyer in our group, Patty Wise, to please answer the question.
Great. Thanks, Chris. If you could go to my first slide, it is very clear that one of the best things that you can do to protect yourself in terms of getting this background information, and I would agree with the prior panelists, this is just critical information to have. One of the best things to do is to obtain a very broad, extensive release, and in some cases you need to have a separate release. The Fair Credit Reporting Act requires that, and that will be discussed later in the presentation. But so in many situations you need two releases, but the good news about the release, not the FCRA release, but the one that you draft, is it can be so broad that it protects you in virtually every situation in obtaining information. I've even started using the release language to protect any online. We're going to talk about social networking, social media, some of the new Web 2.0 facilities later, and to protect employers in getting any information that's online, not just information that's posted by the applicant, but information that is posted about the applicant. So release is an obligation. It's something we need to do as a starting point, but I see it as a real tool that can be very helpful for employers. Another starting point is everyone needs to be very careful about the specific laws of their particular jurisdiction. They do vary by state and by country. Certain things are off limits in certain places, and so you always need to be aware of that. In terms of information that should not be requested, I would say broadly there is a category of all protected information or protected activity, and that really refers to those kinds of things that we think of as protected characteristics: age, gender, religion, ethnic or minority status, citizenship, all those kinds of things. Those are off limits in the background checking, really in the entire employment process, and protected activity as well. Protected activity really refers to any exercise of a legal right. One of the key examples of that is if an employee or an applicant for employment has sued their former employer, that information is off limits and can't be considered in the hiring process. So any exercise of any legally protected right. And off limits for background, that's the kind of thing, if you try to get that information, that can also lead to a retaliation claim. So definitely need to stay away from those categories. And then finally, I want to mention one that I see, it comes up a lot for employers, and that is arrest information. I think sometimes background providers, providers of that information, are very, very thorough, and they end up often providing arrest information, which cannot be considered. And it doesn't matter how many arrests, how serious the alleged incidents, but that information is completely off limits, and I do see that happening a lot. So, Chris, back to you.